Hey, what's going on, everybody? Bitcoin Chris checking in once again. We have another whiteboard session, episode 4. Like I said, I've been getting a lot of positive feedbacks about these type of videos. So I'm going to continue to do these types of videos because, some people are visual learners and, I like the setup. So we'll continue to make these videos. So thank you guys for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do so. And today we're going to go over what makes up your personal credit, because some things we just don't know. So people don't know these things, so I'm going to go over these things with you guys today, so that way you know exactly what makes up your personal credit, and in that way you can understand why your credit score is the way it is. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. All right, so what makes up your credit? What makes up your credit? Let me move this down. Cool. What makes up your credit? How do they calculate your credit score? All right, well, let's jump right into it. What makes up your credit score? 35% of your score is calculated by your payment history. $35% of your score is your payment history, which means if you miss one payment, one late payment is going to cause you the most damage on your credit report. This is why it's important to have your credit card on autopilot. We're also going to go over your statement date and due date, because some people don't know those dates as well. And let's jump into the next calculation. The next one is 30%. It's calculated by utilization. So 30 and 35%, that's 65% of your scores are by utilization and payment history. So if you know these are the two main and two most important things in your credit report, then you need to be aware of utilization and payment history. Make your on-time payments. Don't use your credit card don't use too much of your credit card utilization by the payment date or statement date, which we'll go ahead and jump into that now, because that's going to play the major factor in how you can boost your credit score. So you want to know how to boost your credit score? Pay your credit cards down to 10% and under. 10% and under, pay it down. That's how you're going to boost your credit. I know everybody tells you 30%. Stop doing what everybody does. Everybody doesn't know how to use their credit to the best of their abilities, right? 30% is wrong. That's the minimum, right, that you want to have it at. Excuse me, and that's on the statement date and due date. So let's jump into that. Statement date. 1 second. Just got out the shower and put some lotion on. His hands looking kind of dry over here. All right. Statement date. Versus due date. You need to know these things to lower your credit card utilization. Your statement date is when it reports to the credit bureaus, which is different from your due date. You need to look on your app, or if you're getting paper statements in the mail, on the mail, it shows you your statement date. That is the date that it reports to your credit, to the credit bureaus. You can also look this up in Credit Karma. Now, there's nothing wrong with Credit Karma. I like the layout of Credit Karma. Obviously, that uses your Vantage score versus your FICO score, but it's a pretty simple layout of how many accounts you have, how many inquiries you have, if you're late, if you have derogatory items. It's just an easier setup. So it's great for being able to get a quick snapshot of what's going on with your credit. And, you know, even though it's not your FICO score, it still gives you that overall synopsis of your credit report. So if you can follow these rules here, I guarantee if you drop your utilization under 10%, your score will go up. I can guarantee you if you don't miss any late payments, your score will go up. If you miss a late payment, then your score will go down significantly, right? That's 35% of your scores. Statement date is when it reports to your credit bureaus. You can call your bank, ask them, or look on Credit Karma or look on your banking statement from your credit card company. It says statement date. Due date is when you are supposed to pay the minimum payment. So pay your minimum payment. And then it's usually a couple days after this is your statement date. Now you can change your due date and your statement date. Or your statement date. Or your due date. You can change both of these, right? Because again, it's after. The statement date is after the due date. So you can call and ask to change your due date, which would change your statement date, or ask for when the statement date is. That way you can adjust when you make your payments to make sure it's paid off or under 10% by the statement date. Due date, minimum payment, statement date, down to 10%. 30% of your utilization is credit card usage. 30% of your credit score is the credit card utilization. Under 10% is the way to go. The lower, the better. The higher, the worse it will be. Statement date versus due date. Due date is when you need your minimum payment. Statement date is when it reports to the credit bureau. Just want to make sure you guys have a clear understanding of that. The next thing is payment history or credit card history. 15% of your scores is payment or credit card history. How long have you had your credit? So what I want to do is give you guys some places where you can, you know, get history reported to your credit report. So, you know, a lot of these things that I'm telling you is what I tell my clients, that I have been telling my clients. You know, my team or staff, you know, breaks this down. When you sign up for our program, you get a full credit analysis that also breaks this down as far as, you know, how your credit is built and what's going on with your credit. But, you know, I want to make sure I provide you guys with this information so you can start to build your credit and, you know, increase your credit scores. So you can, you know, get in position and start a business, right? And live through corporate life instead of, you know, living through an employee who pays the most taxes. So, you know, the things I'm telling you, all the rich and wealthy people do what I'm telling you to do and understand this. So you need to understand this as well. Okay. 15% credit card history. So let me give you two websites that you guys can go to right now to sign up for to get some credit history. And that way you can boost your credit. Boom Pay and Rental Karma. Boom Pay will report your rent. So if you are renting, all you do is pay the fee. I think it's like 15 bucks or something. I'm not 100% sure. Whatever the fee is, pay it, and they can give you 2 years of your payment, of your rental history added onto your credit report. So that would give you 2 years to your credit report. Rental Karma is great as well. They can do up to 10 years. So if you've been living somewhere for 5 years, paying rent for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, however long, right? They will report that to your credit, and that will boost your credit. 15% of your score is your age. So if you have more age, it makes you look good. That will raise your credit scores. Free game. Next calculation. 10% is new credit. This, so new credit would pretty much mean increase, right? So you want to be wise when you're applying for credit, and you want to make sure you're not over applying, right? So this is why, let me give you guys some gems real quick, especially if you guys looking to go get a car. If you're going to go get a car, go to your credit, go to a local credit union. Or if you bank with, Chase or Bank of America, or even if you have the Capital One credit card, stop going to the dealership. They're going to run your credit 100 times. Maybe not that much, but at least 20 times. They'll run your credit a bunch of times until they can find a bank that will give you a loan, right? And by the time they find a bank that's going to give you a loan, it can be, 20 inquiries. I've seen it. I've seen more than 20 inquiries. I've seen people with hundreds of inquiries. Like literally 200-300 inquiries, which is absurd. But it is 10% of your credit report, so make sure you don't do that. How you can beat the system, right? Instead of going to get a car the old-fashioned way, you want to go to your credit union, a local credit union. If you already bank with Chase or Bank of America, or if you have the Capital One credit card already, what you can do is you can apply at Capital One on the app. It'll be one inquiry. I think they check all 3 bureaus, but it'll still be, one inquiry per bureau. 3 is cheaper, 3 is less. I'm not sure because I think Capital One checks all 3. I haven't done it through Capital One. My car is paid off. I pay cash for my vehicles. I don't get car loans. But for those of you that do, Capital One gives you the opportunity to apply on the app. I think that'll be 3 inquiries. 3 is less than 20, so there you go. Hopefully you get approved. Bank of America, they'll pull Experian if I'm not mistaken. Chase will also pull Experian, and then the credit union iBank, they pull from Equifax. But, it'll be one inquiry, maybe 3 inquiries, which is still less than 10 to 20 when you go to a dealership. They're going to cut you a check. So say you get approved for a $31,000 loan for a car. They will give you a check. And now you hold all the leverage. You go to the dealership and you say, okay, I see a $35,000 or $40,000 car. Let me negotiate, right? You want to negotiate and say, hey, I want this car. It says $35,000, but I only have $30,000. Let's make that happen. But Chris, you said I have $31,000. Why am I going to say 30? Because this is a part of negotiation, guys. You say, hey, I want the car for $30,000. Okay. They'll give it to you for $30,000. $1,000 is to you. Now you own the car. Now you have the car, and now you make your payments to the credit union. So now you just save not only you save pretty much, it was 35, right? You save 5,000 and you pocketed 1,000. You got one inquiry, and now you have a car, and you don't ding your credit crazy. All right. And the last thing on your credit report is mixed use of credit. Where am I going to put this? Okay, you guys can see this over here, right? Yeah, 10%. Mixed credit. I need to get another marker. Running out of ink here. All right, so mixed credit. What mixed credit is, guys, it is you want to have on your credit reports, you want to have credit cards, maybe loans. You want to have, if you have a house, a mortgage. You want to have your car loan. So personal loan, mortgage, car loan, credit card. A mix, right? So you want to have a mixed use of credit. different credit reporting on your reports, and that's going to help you as well. So that's 10% of your scores. All right, so mixed use of credit is the last thing in your credit. So you want to have a mixed use of credit. And this, my friends, is what makes up your credit score. If you can keep your utilization down by the reporting date, statement date, your scores will increase. If you cannot miss your payments by putting your payments on auto pay, these two things are the most significant. Keep that in mind. You can boost your credit right now by going to boompay.com or boompay.app, or look it up on Google and Rental Karma. I would recommend you get both, because that would be about 12 years. If you've been living somewhere for 5 years, 10 years, that'd be 7 years. 10 years plus 10 plus 2 years, 12 years. 12 years on your credit, 50% of your score. That will boost your score a lot. Inquiry, stop applying for things excessively. If you get denied, it's a reason why. It's probably because you have negative items and you need to remove those negative items, okay? Now, when you go get a car, go get it this way instead of going to a dealership, okay? And then mixed use of credit, make sure that you have a mixed use of credit, not just credit cards only, or not just one loan and no credit cards, or just your car and no credit cards. Because a lot of people, you can have one credit card and you have a 700 score because you have a thin profile. And, you know, the banks don't want to see you have a thin profile. They want to see that you can manage credit properly, which is why in the previous video I said you need to have 6 to 10 positive accounts. Six to 10 positive accounts. I know that's looking real sloppy, but 6 to 10 positive accounts, guys, okay? If you follow this and you listen to what I'm saying and you get 6 to 12 positive accounts, because of the algorithm, you have a low utilization, you have payment history, you have on-time payments, you're paying your cards down by the statement date to 10% or under, you have a mixed use of credit, you don't have a ton of inquiries, you're not applying for credit looking crazy, looking like a crackhead thirsty for money. They can tell that you're thirsty for money by how you're applying. So stop applying like crazy, okay? And before I go, let me just show you guys how you can, you know, sometimes you may need the money, right? Sometimes you may need the money, but by the statement date, if you pay it off, it will report that you have no balance. Once it reports, then you can use the money again. And now you have another 30 days to pay what you need to pay, do what you need to do, right? And then by the statement date that comes around again, pay it off or pay it down to 10%, let it report, and then you can use the money again. Okay? Now, this is why I say get get business credit, because it doesn't affect your utilization and it doesn't report to your personal credit. So this is your personal credit profile. Hope this helps. Bitcoin Chris checking out. Peace.